9.4, the percent equation. We should be on page 432 in our books. Okay? Now, the percent equation is another way to solve the problems that we've been solving so far in Chapter 9. The only difference is this is an equation. The A over B equals P over 100. This is a proportion. Okay? That's the difference. But I can solve the same type of problem either way. All right? So if I tell you on your quiz or your test, which I will, solve the following question using a proportion, then you would use the proportion. If I said use the percent equation to answer the following question, then you would use the percent equation. You can use either one to solve the same type of problem. So let's look at example 1. Finding part of a base. This should look familiar to you. Okay? Now let's look at the fundraising example on the top of page 432. This is a word problem, so we need to kind of pick it apart and figure out what part we're missing. It says your class has raised 80%, there's your percentage, of its goal of $8,000 for a trip to Washington, D.C. How much money has your class raised? Well, in 9.2, you learned about how to set up a proportion. We've already talked about A is the part, B is the base, P is the percentage. Well, here I'm just going to use the same letters represent the same key words, okay, in the percent equation. A equals P percent times B. Now, on your homework tonight, you're going to write this percent equation on every one of your problems, okay? Because I want you to practice and to memorize this. All right? So now let's fill in what we know. The class raised 80%, and it's important that you write it this way, and I'll tell you why in a second. 80% of, there's my key word for base, its goal of $8,000. So I'm going to multiply this by 8,000. How much money is that? That's what I'm wondering. So that's A. Can I just multiply 80 times with 8,000 though?
No.
No, I can't. I need to change it to a decimal, and that's the part that you're probably going to get tripped up on. If you mess up on any part, it will be changing the percentage to a decimal first before you multiply. So now, let's change this to 0.8 times 8,000. And what do you get? You get 6,400. What's the label? Dollars. Very good. $6,400. So when they say that they've raised 80% of their goal of $8,000, how much money is that? It's $6,400. Okay? So that's how we find part of a base. But just like when we saw the proportion, we found A, we found B, we found P. Well, that's what we're doing today. The only difference is now we're plugging it straight into an equation instead of a proportion. So in example 2, we're finding the percent. All right, so I'm reading at the top of page 433. It says, what percent of 150 is 90? The wording is still the same. I'm just plugging it in to the percent equation. So my percent equation is A equals P percent times B. Okay, and this is how you're going to write it on your homework tonight. Exactly like this. And then plug it in. Do I know A? What is A going to be here? You should be looking with me on the top, page 433. What percent of 150 is 90? What is A?
90.
It's 90. So I plug it in for A. Do I know the percent?
No.
No, I don't. So P percent times, and what is B?
150.
Times 150. What's another way that we could write this? P percent times 150. How else could we write it? Anybody else know? Besides Michael? What do you think? How else could we write this? What do you think, Brianna?
150p%.
Okay, very close. Yeah, you could just write it 90 equals 150p. You don't need the percent when it's the variable. Okay, and now this should look familiar. You just divide both sides by 150. Now, in your calculators, when you do 90 divided by 150, what decimal do you end up with? What do you end up with, Michael? Very good, 0.6. But is that a percentage? So I need to convert to a percentage. So 0.6 converted to a percentage is 60%. Very good. And don't forget your label. P equals 60%. Okay? So you're going to end up with a decimal, convert it to a percentage, and then that's your answer. Finding percent. In example 3, now we're finding the base. So again, we're just finding different parts of the percent equation. So now it says the number 117 is 45% of what number? We're on page 433, example 3. The number 117 is 45% of what number? So I'm going to use my percent equation. A equals P percent times B. And I'm going to plug in what I know. It says the number 117 is 45% of what number? So what do I know? What is A? What's A?
117.
It's 117. What's P percent? 45. And remember, leave it as a percentage times B. Now, is it going to just be 45B?
No.
What is it going to be?
0.45B.
0.45. Make sure you convert to a decimal. Okay? So you want to, and you don't have to show this part, but you want to show me 117 equals 0.45, and now you can just combine it. Remember, a letter next to a variable, or a number next to a variable, right next to it indicates multiplication, so that's the proper way to write it. Then to solve, I just divide by 0.45 both sides. And B equals what?
0.
No. B equals?
260.
Anybody else have it? What is it? B equals? Kelly, did you get it? Tori, did you get it? Morgan, did you get it? Emery? You should have gotten 117 divided by 0.45. It's 260. Okay? So this is very similar, again, from what we've been doing so far in this chapter, except before I was using a proportion, now I'm using an equation. So let's pull it all together now. What is a real life example that I can use to a percent equation in? Okay? Finding commission. Does anybody know what commission is? Josh?
You get a percent of what you if you sell a house, you get a percent of what how much you made.
Very good. Okay. Realtors work on commission. If they sell a house, they get a percentage of the price of that house. In this example, in example 4, we're talking about a shoe salesperson, car salespeople, people who sell appliances. All right. To work on commission, whenever employers put their employees on commission, they're trying to give them motivation to sell. If you sell this much money, we'll give you a percentage of what you sold. Okay? So we can use the percent equation to figure out how much they actually get back in their pocket, what their dollar amount is on their commission. So let's look at example 4 together. It says a shoe salesperson sells a pair of shoes for $125. That's the ticket price. The salesperson receives a 9% commission on the sale. How much is the commission? Let me ask you this. $125. Is that A or B in the percent equation? What do you think? Do you think 125 is the part of the sale, or is it the total sale? It's the sale. $125 was the price of the shoes. Okay? So that is the total amount. That's going to be B. That'll probably be the hardest part of figuring out these word problems is, okay, is 125 B or is it A? And if you get it wrong, then you're not going to get the correct answer. Okay, so I set it up. A is the commission I'm looking for, equals 9% times 125. All right, now remember what we talked about. We cannot just multiply 9 times 125. We have to convert it to a decimal. So 9% as a decimal is what? What is it?
0.09.
It's 0.09. 0.09 now times 125. And what's 0.09 times 125?
11.25.
So that is the commission. A equals $11.25. So, real life example of how we can use the percent equation. This is actually one of the lessons that I can tell you definitely will use in real life. Okay? So, I know y'all ask me that a lot. And so this has a direct application to your futures. Okay? Especially if you end up working in sales. All right? And if you understand that, that's everything you need to know for 9.4.